All right, let's dive right in. We're going to explore the one system that makes all life on Earth possible, the aquatic ecosystem. And it's a fascinating story of massive scale, but also, surprisingly, of incredible scarcity. And it affects every single one of us every single day.
So here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start by looking at Earth as this huge living system. Then we'll get into why it's called the blue planet and what that really means. After that, we'll follow the incredible journey of water, uncover a secret role that plants play in all this, and then wrap up by figuring out what this all means for us.
Okay, so first things first. To really get a handle on our planet's water, we actually need to zoom way out and look at the big picture. Because here's the thing, Earth isn't just a place, it's a living, breathing system. It's so easy to just think of our planet as, well, rocks, water, and air, right? But the reality is just so much more incredible. It really functions like one single giant organism. Every single part is connected, and they're all constantly influencing each other. So, scientists like to break this giant system down into four main parts, or spheres. You've got the atmosphere, that's all the air, the lithosphere, which is the solid ground beneath our feet, the biosphere, that's us and every other living thing, and then, of course, the hydrosphere, which is every single drop of water. They all work together in this beautiful dance, but for today's story, the real star of the show is the hydrosphere.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that water. I mean, we've all seen those incredible photos from space, right? Our planet is this stunning blue marble. And there's a really simple reason why.
A whopping 70%. That's how much of Earth's surface is covered in water. It just screams abundance, doesn't it? But, and this is a big but, that image is actually pretty misleading. It hides a really shocking truth about the water we can actually use. So that huge 70% number, it really makes you wonder, right? With all that water out there, how much of it is actually available for us to drink, to grow our food, for all the life that depends on it? Well, the answer? It's kind of staggering. Okay, so when you actually break down where all that water is, the picture changes. A lot. A massive 97% of all the water on Earth is salt water in our oceans and seas. Then, another 2% is completely locked up as ice in glaciers and the polar ice caps. So, what does that leave us with?
Just 1%. Let that sink in for a second. 1%. Every river you see, every lake, every single drop of rain that keeps all life on land going, it all comes from this tiny, tiny, precious fraction of the planet's total water. That's it. That's all we've got to work with. So if we're all sharing just this 1%, how in the world does it not run out? Well, the secret is this absolutely magnificent planet-sized recycling system we call the water cycle. Now, the key thing to understand here is that it's what's known as a closed system. Think about it like a sealed water bottle. The total amount of water inside that bottle never, ever changes, right? Well, our planet is basically that bottle. The water just changes its form from liquid to gas to solid, and it moves all over the place, constantly. And this constant journey, this recycling process, it's really driven by three main stages. And they work together in this perfect, continuous loop that never stops, always working to clean and move that precious 1% around. And what's the engine driving this whole thing? It's the sun. Its energy beats down and heats up the surface of oceans, lakes, and rivers. This causes the water to turn into a really light gas. We call it water vapor. And that vapor starts to rise up, up, up into the atmosphere. Okay, so quick question for you. If we had to pick the one single process that really drives this entire global system, the one thing that kicks the whole cycle off, what would you say it is? Yep, you got it. It all comes back to evaporation. Without the sun's energy lifting that water up off the surface, it would just sit there. It would never get into the atmosphere. The whole cycle would grind to a halt before it even began. It is the absolute fundamental first step. So once that water vapor rises high up into the cooler air, it starts to change back into tiny liquid droplets. This is condensation, and it's what forms the clouds we see in the sky. And when those little droplets bump into each other and get bigger and heavier, well, eventually they get too heavy to just float around. That's when we get precipitation. The water comes back down to Earth as rain, snow, or hail, and the whole amazing journey starts all over again. But wait, this whole cycle isn't just about physics, heat and cold. The biosphere, remember that? All of us, all the living things,
we actually play a huge and often totally overlooked part in moving water around the planet. And you know who the major players are here? Plants. They have this incredible process called transpiration. Basically, they act like these little biological straws. They suck up water from the soil through their roots, pull it up through their stems, and then release it as water vapor straight into the atmosphere from tiny pores in their leaves. It's amazing. So what's the big deal? I mean, what's the real impact of billions and billions of plants all doing this at the same time? Let me tell you, it is not just some small side effect. This process can fundamentally shape the weather, not just locally, but for entire regions. By pumping all of that moisture directly into the air, plants make the atmosphere way more humid. And what does that mean? It means clouds can form faster and more often over places with lots of plants, like a big forest, and that leads to more rain. So, in a way, plants are literally making their own weather. How cool is that? Wow. So we followed water all the way from the ocean, up into the clouds, back down to the ground, and even through the leaves of a tiny plant. It's been quite a journey. So let's take a second to recap the absolute most important things to remember from all this. Okay, so here are the 4 big ideas. First, Earth is one big interconnected system. Second, that accessible freshwater we all depend on, it's incredibly rare, just that tiny 1%. Third, the water cycle is nature's amazing recycling system that keeps that supply going. And finally, living things, especially plants, aren't just along for the ride. They are active, crucial participants in this whole process. And all of this really leads us to one last, really critical thought. The amount of water we have on Earth is fixed. We can't make any more of it. I mean, the water you drank today could be the same water a dinosaur drank millions of years ago. So the real question for us isn't about how much water there is, it's about the quality of that water. What is our collective responsibility to protect that tiny, finite 1% and make sure it stays clean and usable for us and for every single generation that comes after us?